When I started high school, I feel I had some pretty close encounters due to my naivety. I'm a female and had very poor self-esteem, so while I did have some close friends, I was also quiet and reserved. However, as I was going into a new school, I wanted to put myself out there more. I wanted crazy memories with my friends. I wanted to try new things and maybe get my first boyfriend. So in order to do this, I wanted to change myself so I could be happy with who I was. My birthday was over the summer, so I saved up as much money as I could and finally convinced my parents to let me dye my hair a deep purple and black, and even started doing some of those makeup tutorials. I know it may sound stupid to some, but I know there were a lot of girls that felt the same way as me at the time. Again, I know it sounds stupid now, but it really made a difference to me. I walked into that school for the first time feeling like a different person, except I was still the quiet, smart girl in the back. The first few months were not unusual. My friends and I hung out between classes. All four of us were able to dye our hair, so we had a bit of an ego boost, and we did have some people notice too. There was one girl in particular, Shelby, that was on the choir team that complimented my hair, which made me feel great because she was one of the more charismatic girls. She wasn't the mean and popular type because she was genuinely friendly with anyone, and she had a lot of friends, but she just never really talked to me except for in passing. That's where things started changing for me. While my friends and I were leaving PE, we were singing some stupid song when Shelby complimented me on my voice. She was in the same class, so she could hear us. She said I should try for choir next year, which I never would have thought about being the person I was. From there, she began talking to me more. I would help her on assignments in class, and she even brought in her makeup once to do mine before first period. We started hanging out outside of school and became pretty close friends. Me hanging out with Shelby also meant I was around more guys than just my brother and his friends. The ones she hung around started paying attention to me, and I didn't dislike it. It was different and something I wanted out of high school. One night, Shelby was staying over at my house and helping me dye my hair again. While we were waiting, we started messing around on my laptop. She showed me her Facebook page and a few other sites that she would go on, and showed me another website that I had never heard of before. To explain it the best I can, it was supposed to be like a blog targeted towards teenagers as a safe place to talk about your concerns, fears, things like that. You could vent there or just share your creativity. It was all text-based, so you couldn't send or receive pictures. Shelby posted a lot of lyrics to her favorite songs or poems she wrote. She said there was a private message option, which was like an email, but still no media could be sent or received. She said she used this a lot since her parents monitored her email too. So I followed and set up an account as well. She helped me set up her personalized wallpaper and bio, and pretty quickly I had a lot of supporters, which were like friends or followers. I started using this daily. I would post music lyrics, poems, or songs I wrote, little tidbits about my day, and so forth. I even tried helping others that were not in a good state of mind when I could. It almost became like a job for me. That was the problem though. I do admit I had been told by teachers on a few occasions to put my phone away, and once had it taken away by a teacher. It was my English teacher. He was weird in the sense that he was always cheerful to talk to, especially when we first got into class. If you needed help with something or needed more time on a project, as long as it wasn't abused, he was willing to help. But if you interrupted him in even the slightest during lecture, he seemed to come unglued. He would slam his hand on a desk, do that ear-piercing whistle thing, and I unfortunately got caught on my phone and he took it from me. I had to get it back from him at the end of the day. I was more careful with having it out, especially in his class. Going back to this site, other than what it was intended for, some people used it to set up fights. It unfortunately was not blocked on the school's network, so when one larger fight took place, they were able to check the history under their logins and see this site. Because of this, the site was blocked from the school network, and the teachers were not very well aware of this too, and started monitoring harder for phones that were out. I was not a fighter, so I never used it for that. But I did on occasion have a few guys on there that I talked to and flirted with. There was even a new section added where you can give people virtual gifts for points, which you earn for doing certain tasks, such as logging in, making a post, things like that. The gifts can then be sent with a name, or you can send it anonymously. I got a few from people I knew, but then I started getting ones weekly that were anonymous. I thought it was cool and showed my friends to gauge if they were doing it. They claimed they didn't and were just as excited and curious as myself to know who it was. I figured if not them, maybe it was a mutual friend, or maybe I really did just have an admirer. So I made a post about it, saying something about how I appreciated them. The next day, I got a response from a username I wasn't familiar with, saying it was them and that they were happy I liked them. My friends didn't recognize the name either, so me being me, deduced it as someone who did actually like me. From then on, they would reply to all my posts with a compliment on it, then would call me beautiful, gorgeous, etc. I really didn't mind it for a while. I started getting private messages from the same person saying I was perfect for them. I tried asking who they were, but all they would tell me was that they went to the same school, but were too scared to approach me. I tried to convince them to, but they always refused, but the messages didn't stop. Hello, beautiful. Good morning, princess. I hope my goddess has a great day. I remember the messages like that because they creep me out to this day, and I have troubles with hearing it now. This went on for a while, but it started getting old. That's all they ever did, so I started ignoring it. I don't think they liked that though, because they began to beg me to acknowledge them, and they finally got that when the messages became more explicit and vulgar, started talking about my body and what they would do to me. I still didn't have a boyfriend, so I didn't even know how to react to that. So I just decided to block that person. After about a week or so, I started getting the same type of messages from a new name, so I immediately blocked it too. Thinking they may have gotten the hint, I moved on as normal. Towards the end of the semester, PE then had swim classes, and since it was my last period for the day, sometimes I would just walk home in my swimsuit and cover up. By the time I had gotten home and showered, I had messages from a new person that specifically mentioned my swimsuit and something along the lines of how it was hard to resist not snatching me up from the name of my street. Now, this made me panic a bit because now I am really being followed and they know where I live. I just sent them a message saying to leave me alone and blocked them again. They didn't stop. I can't tell you how many more this person made and how many more messages I would get where they just got worse and worse. They would describe what I was wearing or where I was when they saw me, what they wanted to do to me, and even kept saying they were going to take me away and kept putting the date and counting down the days. April 17th. I hate that day now. There's always something there that makes me think I need to watch my back on that day. This all started to crash down when we were in study hour, and Shelby asked me about going to her birthday party, and it was going to be the weekend of April 17th. I lost it. I felt horrible, but Part of me thought it was her screwing with me this whole time, and I started yelling and crying. The teacher walked me to the counselor's room where I told her everything that was happening. My parents were called in and they called the cops to have it all reported. They weren't upset that I hadn't told them about it, but were more so concerned about finding out who did this to me. Since they thought it was a fellow student at first, and they knew the students had access to the site at the school, they began trying to trace back the usernames that were messaging, so I had to go back in and unblock those names as well. To my surprise, they were eventually able to find out who had created those and who was messaging me. It was our English teacher. This sick freak was messaging those explicit things to me, and after checking his computer, they found out I wasn't the only one. He was definitely arrested and is in prison now. The website is gone too. It only got worse from there, and it ended up being shut down, thankfully. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Feeling like you have to look over your shoulder everywhere you go is just an awful way to live. And parents, no matter how much they may hate you for it, monitor what your kids do online. You have no idea some of the things that can and do happen right under your nose.